Morning, hope you're all doing well. Apologies for the last video, my camera did not work too well. So anyway, we're back, we've got a brand new camera. What's really cool about this is I can move and the AI will follow. So really interesting to talk about why you need to get to 1 Bitcoin. It's really important. Okay, we're in a world now where there's a lot of turmoil. We spoke about it on previous videos. We've got Iran at war. We've got Russia at war. We've got global geopolitical issues going on around the world. Banks are debanking people left, right, and center. So this is just a really sort of short, brief video to kind of explain, look, it's really important. You know, the metaphor here is to talk about get to 1 Bitcoin. How can you do that? Is it dollar cost averaging? Yes. Is it also just putting money into Bitcoin when you can? Yes. Or is it buying large chunks of Bitcoin with any sort of spare cash that you might have? And I think the critical thing is, you know, I'm seeing on a global level with contacts, with people that I know, either selling up portfolios of real estate or chipping away at their real estate and, you know, getting rid of some of their properties in their portfolios and investing into Bitcoin. So it's now more prevalent than ever to look at getting yourself to at least 1 Bitcoin. Okay, it's important. It's, you know, it's stressful to kind of understand how you do that. I understand, you know, 1 Bitcoin is a lot of money, but don't stress. And if we look at the markets, let's have a look what's going on out there at the moment. I mean, it's just, you know, to get to that 1 Bitcoin is critical. Okay, so you've got to look at how can you do this? What assets do you own at the moment that you can maybe potentially off-sell and put it on the market? Is it stocks and shares? Is it going to be your Roth IRA, your pension, anything? You know, anything that can give you a better return at the moment is going to be Bitcoin, right? So look at what you can do out there. Study your asset classes. What have you got under the belt in your portfolio? How can you move some of your cash away from your traditional assets? It's important to know why you want to do this. And it's because, in my humble opinion, you look at asset classes like real estate, they're just not performing that well. And enter into the new asset class of Bitcoin, you start to see how things are moving, you know, extremely well. And I just think it's really good to kind of look at what asset class types are out there. You look at gold, silver, any sort of precious metal, real estate, and stocks and shares. And it's now becoming more mainstream where people are, you know, typical investors, maybe retail investors or large portfolio investors, looking at what else they can do out there. And this channel is all about going permissionless. It's all about fighting against what the banks are doing and really just starting to sort of stand up and say, actually, we have a voice. We want to take control of our own assets. I spoke on a previous video, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and you look at what's happening on real estate. Certainly in the UK, there's a lot more tax happening. We've got a new government. That means they've got more control over your physical assets. If you default, the bank will then call in the asset and they'll repossess the house. What other asset classes are out there where government can't do that? There's not that many, really, right? And then, you know, you usher in Bitcoin and you realize actually the true power behind this asset class. And I say it again and again and again. You know, if you've got self-custody, if you don't know what self-custody is, do a Google on it. Obviously, if you're a trader or if you're a crypto investor and you understand completely what self-custody is, fantastic. Welcome to the club. It's just important to protect your assets, keep them on self-custody, and keep them away from the greedy hands of the government. So we're in this asset class. We're in this period of a new asset class that's kind of gone boom, right? Which is Bitcoin. We're in a space now where we're looking at, you know, potentially of the asset class hitting at over £100,000 or $120,000 potentially by December 2024, with even further increases by 2025. So, I keep banging the drum. Look at how you can get to 1 Bitcoin. It doesn't have to necessarily happen straight away, but again, I'm just going to share my screen and look at how we can get to 1 Bitcoin and what you need to look at out there. I see people on forums of real estate that I follow, and that they're constantly saying, what else? I've got £50,000 in the bank or £100,000. What can I invest in? And if you look at Bitcoin, I've just pulled up the graph for the last month. It's typical with Bitcoin, right? We've got a little bit up and downs, but actually we're on the 46,000, nearly 47,000 pound mark per Bitcoin. So it's really, really important to understand how can we get you to 1 Bitcoin, or how can you get to 1 Bitcoin? My view is you've got to look at all the asset classes out there, see what the return is. It's all about ROI. What does property bring you in? What does stocks and shares bring you in? Look at your balanced portfolio and understand what can it bring in for you. And then look at new asset classes like Bitcoin and understand really, how do I get to 1 Bitcoin? So if you look at, as of today's market price, you're looking at around £47,000. Well, to be precise, 46,842. But let's just, for the sake of the video, market's 47,000. We are on that trajectory of growth, right? My conviction, as I always say this, it never changed with Bitcoin. We've got a beautiful asset class that is completely immutable. It's beautiful in terms of, you look at real estate, and I've got a portfolio of real estate. If I want to cash that in, or even try and sell the property, you're looking at 3 to 6 months, to kind of offload that property, to dilute and get liquidity to kind of place elsewhere. That's a pain. You look at Bitcoin, it's great. It's fully transportable. You can quickly sell fragments. It's fractionalized asset. So if you want to go and cash in tomorrow or today on Bitcoin, I'm a big fond believer of this. If you do, people say, don't sell your Bitcoin, don't sell your Bitcoin. But there's a right time to sell your Bitcoin, okay? You might have a tax bill to pay. Not saying you should do that for Bitcoin, because for me, I want to keep onto my Bitcoin as long as possible. But there comes a right time when you need to sell, right? It could be that you want to put shelter over your family's head, get a new property, and Bitcoin's giving you that enabled position to do that. So when you look at what Bitcoin can offer you and your family, and a better way of life, it gives you that ability to basically have access to your funds in a much quicker way. So look at that. Look at what Bitcoin can offer. And again, if you look at the price range at the moment, now is a better time than ever. I always say buying in Bitcoin at any time is a good time, right? Look at Bitcoin in today's market. You fast forward to December 23. We are looking at above the 100,000 mark. If we look from max date since conception, you can see the beautiful graph. And I posted them on my last video about the halving process. So have a look back at that. It gives a great visual representation of post-halving on what happens. We're not just sitting here, and it's really bizarre because I had lunch yesterday with a friend of mine, and I'm an advocate, right? And that's why I'm here. I'm always talking about Bitcoin to friends, family, and colleagues, and I try and push the benefits across. But you can't just sell Bitcoin to people. They need to understand the fundamentals. They need to understand what it can do for them personally, because it might not be right for them. People just sometimes have the old mindset and want to concentrate on stocks and shares because they're used to it, or they want to concentrate on real estate. And I'm not here to judge, right? Balanced portfolios is always good, but equally you do need to do your research. And this is all about, if you're not on 1 Bitcoin yet, you haven't got 1 Bitcoin yet, get to that 1 Bitcoin. And going back to this graph here, it gives you that image, we're ready to go through the next post-halving process, where you are looking at, £100,000 plus by December 25 onwards. Okay, so it's really good to kind of discuss that and look at what else we can, push to get people onto that 1 Bitcoin. Something that just really popped up that raised my eyebrows, I think it was this week actually, it popped up, was Apple are basically going to be opening up the payment chip inside their phone to third-party developers. This is revolutionary. This is big news. It basically means developers will be able to, whether they get signed up or not, knowing what Apple are like, but they'll be able to create their own payment structures via the APIs, and you'll be able to pay via Apple Pay, for example, with your crypto. So what this allows everybody on Apple or iPhones is that ability to have access to their crypto straight on the device. You know, this was a matter of time for Apple to do this. And obviously, you know, all the other phone manufacturers will follow, especially Android, to have the competition in the market. You know, it's a natural progression. Like, you're going to have people that are moving funds around rather than just having for example, let's say you've got it on cold storage, you then got to send it back to your bank currently and then pay. There are a few off-ramp companies. I forget the names at the moment, but I was looking at them. But this is going to be a natural progression. In fact, I was looking at Strike recently, and I've started to use Strike app to buy Bitcoin. They're a Bitcoin-only exchange, I think is the best word to use for them. And you can basically buy your crypto through them. But I think their future game will be to have some sort of debit card or facility where you can actually pay using your crypto, whether it's Bitcoin or whatever. But certainly for Strike, they're a Bitcoin-only company. I'm not working with them in any way. I just like what Jack, who's the CEO there at Strike, and what they're doing. So have a look at them anyway. They're a great company. But this is big news. I mean, look, if Apple is starting to wake up and say, hold on a minute, you can use Apple Pay or link to your payment chip on your phone to make payments, that is amazing. So I've just highlighted a couple of points here which I wanted to go over. It says here that you can even move your crypto. This is the original way. Move your crypto from their self-custody wallet to an exchange using a 42-character wallet address. Then you take it to your bank. So then you can tap and pay with your iPhone, which is a really old and pretty antiquated way of doing things, right? Or you just tap with iPhone as per usual, and then bingo, you've got access to your payments basically using your crypto. So I think this is great. Things are happening. It's going to be happening, fast. People are going to be adapting to the market. And, it's just a natural progression of how things are going to be going with Apple for sure. So look, just a couple of little things there about getting to one Bitcoin. Looking at the news and what's happening with iPhone and Apple, it's big. Keep following us. Give me some comments here. Give me some dialogue. Let me know your thoughts on these videos so far. If there's anything you want me to cover, let me know. And I hope this video has been useful. Keep in touch, be safe, and let me know if you could like, share, and follow. That'd be fantastic. But for now, guys, look after yourselves, and I'll speak to you soon.